Welcome to Experts Unleashed, a podcast that aims to uncover how professionals and entrepreneurs transform their experience into income while making a positive impact in the world. I'm your host, Joel Irway, and over the past 4 years, I've helped entrepreneurs develop and launch their expert-based businesses to grow past 6 and 7 figures per year. Now, a professional expert serves their community through paid training, education, or service, and this podcast will show you how to design and execute your plan to become a 6 or 7 figure expert without a big team. So, let's get started. Hey, what's going on, experts? It's Joel here with another special episode of Experts Unleashed. Thank you for joining me today. We have a very special guest, and I just hopped off the horn with him. His name is Teddy. Teddy is a happiness expert. Now, that may sound hoity-toity, that may sound woo-woo right now, but I promise you, you will love this interview. I was introduced to Teddy a while ago, and I checked out his story, and he focuses on the ability to leverage gratitude to change your state and to make you happier. Now, Teddy works with nonprofits, and he works in schools. He's done some incredible work with students in helping them just think differently about their life and practice the art of gratitude to change how their day is. He has some incredible statistics, and he has an incredible story about what he's doing in his business. And I can't wait for you to listen to this interview. You are going to love it. I want you to pay attention to how he leverages happiness, how he leverages gratitude, so you can find gratitude in all around you in every piece of your life. So I'm going to be quiet now, and we're going to go right into today's Experts Unleashed interview with Teddy Droseros. Enjoy this interview. Hey, experts, welcome to another very, very special episode of Experts Unleashed today. And guys and gals, I am super, super excited. Hopefully you can tell with the sound of my voice how pumped I am to have our guest today, Teddy Droseros from Grateful Peoples. Teddy, welcome to Experts Unleashed.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So yesterday, my wife, Mary Jo, as we're prepping for our shows today, she goes, "Hey, Joel, Teddy wants you to watch this 4.5 minute video of a school that you helped out in Syracuse, New York, which is not far away from where we are in Niagara Falls. And actually, we lived in Rochester for about 10 years. But Teddy, quickly introduce my audience to who it is that you are, what is Grateful Peoples, and let them know like this unbelievable mission that you are doing with your company.
So Grateful Peoples really is just an expression of what I'm learning in life. And at one point in my life, I started asking a lot of questions in terms of, was I spending my everyday to its full potential? And practicing gratitude and taking the time to write down what I'm grateful for every day really helped me kind of answer these questions. And I was like, wow, this simple, along with yoga and meditation and understanding connection between food and how it affects how we feel, gratitude is something that really completely changed my life, even though nothing changed, just my perception really. And I just wanted to share that experience of taking a few minutes each day to write down some good thoughts and watch how your mind kind of changes over time. So I had this thought to make a journal. So it was a really simple idea, and I didn't really know what I was going to do with it at the time. I had this experience with my heart where I just felt like I should do it. I never felt that before. It was definitely a new experience. And it was really cool. It was really cool to feel like you should be doing this without like a logical explanation for why. And it took about a year to put the journal together. And it's really simple. It's just the cover is some artwork. I started getting into artwork as well. It's really just geometric designs that for me, it's a source of meditation. Friends would come over and be like, hey, can you make me one? So I was like, oh, wow, let me just kind of connect gratitude and this new meditation experience through art. Let me connect them together and make this journal. So I did that. And that was about 3 years ago when I started the process. And it's been about 2 years since I had the journal ready to go, ready to share with the world. And since then, I just started sharing it with people like, hey, I made this journal, just putting it out there and then to see what would happen. And over time, I had this idea to get it into schools. because I was in my mid-20s when I started understanding mindfulness and this new lifestyle. And I wondered, what if I was 15 years old or 10 years old, and someone was like, hey, here's this book, and write down something you're grateful for every day. So I reached out to my old high school here in New York, and I kept in touch with some of the teachers. I was like, hey, here's this idea. I'd love to donate some journals for your class. Let's give it a try. And they were on board. So I went to check in with the kids 4 or 5 months after they got the journals. And every morning they just had 1 minute to write down a happy thought, a grateful thought. And yeah, I remember standing in the classroom and hearing the feedback from the kids and thinking, like, this is what I'm going to be putting a lot of my love and energy into for this next phase of my life. And so we went in and shot a video and got like the kids, how they related to the simple practice, and used that video to share it, to share the project. And just kind of gradually grew. And this past year, we had about 1,200 kids, schools around the country, just starting their day with one of these Grateful People's journals and writing down what they're grateful for every day. And the Syracuse was the end of the video up in Syracuse you mentioned was the end of the first full year that we were doing it. It was a really beautiful experience catching up with the kids.
So this whole idea is gratitude journal. It's 1 minute a day, right?
Well, in Xavier, my old high school, that's all the time they had because they hadn't really built it into their curriculum yet. But yeah, even that 1 minute a day, it had pretty cool impact on the kids' mindset and behavior and a lot of other things.
There was something at the end of your video that I watched from the school in Syracuse that was, they measured, it was something like, it was a 40% drop in behavioral.
Behavioral citations, meaning that say a kid was sent to the main office with, a citation that dropped 40%.
So you gave them this journal. And so explain that exercise. So you said at Xavier, they could only do 1 minute. How long were they spending doing this in Syracuse?
It's different in every classroom. And that's kind of the idea, is just really to plant seeds. And every teacher has a unique relationship with their classroom. So the idea is just to kind of give them the idea and let it grow organically in each relationship. Some teachers said they spent 2 minutes. Some said they spent 5 minutes. But the idea was just to give the kids the time and space, even if it's a couple minutes every day. So yeah, it varies based per classroom.
So one of the things that is fascinating about this to me is this idea of gratitude. And I've heard it before. I've practiced some mindfulness exercises before. I haven't stuck with anything. It has not become a habit, but every time I do it, I feel good, right? Yeah. What do you think as you give this skill set to children? Like, what is their response? Like, let's kind of like kids who haven't experienced it before, you say, hey, listen, I want you to think about I want you to be grateful, or I don't know how you actually position it, but what is the response when you say, this is what I want you to do? Are they resistant to it? Are they very, very skeptical? I mean, what is their initial?
So yeah, there's definitely some kids that have a really hard time with it at first, from what the teachers tell me. I'm just getting feedback. I wish I could be in the classrooms every day because visiting the schools that's an awesome experience for me. But so I'm just getting the feedback from the teachers, and they all say there's a small handful, but there are some kids that just really struggle with this idea of, what am I happy about today? But over time, every single one of them eventually started to relate to the process of writing down a happy thought every day differently, and started to notice more and more things. And that's just the power of gratitude. I feel just give the kids the space to do it, and they'll eventually understand it and see the beauty in the process of just training your mind to see the good around you.
When was the first time you saw this really in action at a large scale? Was it when you went to Xavier? Was it when you went back to your high school and you said, hey, I want to try this? And when was your first kind of group experiment?
Well, the group experiment was with Xavier, and it was just with 25 kids. And with Xavier and Syracuse and some feedback from other teachers, the reason I wanted to start this project, I really believed it was going to have some impact, but I didn't realize to the extent that it would. But yeah, after catching up with those kids at Xavier, I like I said before, I was just like, this is it. This is what I'm going to be doing for however, let's see what until it evolves into whatever it evolves to.
So where did gratitude come into your life? When did it come into your life? Like, when did you really start to see, when were you able to point to this and be like, this is a really, really important exercise in making me feel like, take me back now. This is when we'll start the rewind segment. Like, how did we get to this point?
So it was 2012, actually, because I still have that. I like to journal and I keep all of them. And I started the practice of writing down what I'm grateful for. I read an article and I was like, let me try it out. So I just, every night before bed, I would write down 3 things I'm grateful for. And there was one specific instance and then one kind of broader experience that kind of really made me really feel the power of gratitude. And one was, at the time I was working in the city at a hedge fund, and we were working on some project that it essentially was a pointless project. We were doing it to kind of appease the boss. So, and we knew that. And so it was just all the stress for no reason, like us carrying out the project. And I remember coming up from the subway one day and just really relating to what that day was going to be like differently. My mind just was way more at ease. And it was just really interesting to see how my mind reacted to a thought I was having about the future. And I was like, wow. And this was after a couple of weeks of writing down what I'm grateful for every day. And I really attribute it to that practice. Like, wow, like there's something to this. Like there's really, and there's a lot of science now about power of gratitude and chemical composition of your brain. But I just like to focus on the actual experience. And it really, I think it changed my mind. It's changed the way my mind reacts to things. So there was that. The main thing that really made me understand gratitude and its ability to really change our lives was the way it helped me relate to my mom's sickness. She was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis shortly after I was born. And growing up, looking back, I realized that it was just like, it was a part of my life. Then it was like, I kind of accepted it by default. It was normal to me. That was just normal. And then as I really started to get into mindfulness and gratitude and yoga and meditation and all this really good stuff, my relationship to my mom's disease completely changed. And I started to look at it as a blessing. And I really think that a gratitude practice helped me get here to this point of looking at something that's caused my mom and my family and me so much suffering, but to be able to see the good in it. And the good in it is that when I put on my shoes and I walk out the door, and there's times where I'm like, holy shit, like I just put on my own shoes. I can get dressed by myself. I can shower by myself. I have the option to go sit on a crowded subway in the middle of the summer. And I have these choices, and not everyone does. And it's like a feeling in my gut that when I'm present enough, aware enough, I'm like seeing my mom lose the ability to do these things throughout my life has really made me aware to, if you really look around you, there's so many blessings all the time, every single moment. And I think my mom's disease has connected me to these blessings in a way that I wouldn't have if it wasn't for her sickness.
I think that's a very, very important point. Like, so from experience, so my wife and I, when we have dinner every night with our son, we'll say grace, we'll say our prayer, and then we'll say, what are we grateful for today? A lot of times we find ourselves saying the same thing, like, oh, we're grateful for food and clothing. Yeah. And we really are grateful. But like, I always, like, when I do it, sometimes I have a hard time figuring out what I'm really grateful for. And I think what you really hit on was sometimes in order to figure out what you're grateful for, like you have to see the opposite. Like you have to really see the polar opposite. Like, oh, like with the experience you've had with your mom, like I would never think, like me personally, I would never think like I'm grateful for the ability to put on my shoes. But now that you've said that, because I've seen what that is taken away, like now I can be totally grateful for it. I think I don't know, maybe have you ever thought about that? Like how to spot what you're grateful for? I mean, because now that I think about it that way, there's probably unlimited things that I could be grateful for.
Yeah, there's literally unlimited things to be grateful for. And it's just like getting good at basketball or whatever, you can get good at gratitude. You can get good at being happy. It's a skill. And it's really just more practice. The more, this is kind of a science component too, or a math maybe component, but just the more you take the time to practice gratitude and look for the good things around you, it increases the probability of you seeing new things. It's kind of an equation. So it's really just, dedicating yourself to, like you would to any practice. And your mind will get stronger and it will start seeing new things. And a lot of the kids, they say that they write the same things over and over again in the beginning, but if you just keep giving them the space and, keep with your practice, you'll start seeing new things to be grateful for, because you have new experiences every day. And if you're training your mind to think about gratitude, like, oh, that was something good there. That was good there. And it just kind of snowballs in a positive direction.
Now, so as you're growing up and you're dealing with your mom, you're really being grateful for all the things that you have. Was there a certain instance, certain memory that you can point to that you can remember, like, okay, this is when I really started to remember the ability to be grateful, it making a positive impact? Like, was there something specific that happened that you can point to that you remember about?
In relation to my mom or just in general?
Just in general of being able to say identify the importance of being grateful and translating that to being happy?
Oh, yeah. It was definitely a gradual development. Like true change kind of takes time. And over time, I just started noticing little things really that added up. But a big part of that was in my experience with my mom and just seeing her lose her ability to do the things she loves, like swimming and cooking and riding her bike. And that just gradual experience really connected me to this idea that I've got a lot going for me and I just need to put my mind in a place to acknowledge it. And then we all have a lot more going for us than we allow ourselves to see or easily see. We can see it. We just kind of have to like open our eyes. That's what gratitude does.
So you mentioned before that you had done yoga and meditation. Yeah. When did you start doing that?
This was all in 2012.
That's when you started doing yoga and meditation.
Yeah, it all kind of, I just started asking a lot of questions like, what am I doing? And I was happy. I was just got my own apartment, moved out of my parents' house, was living with some great friends and, I was working and having fun on the weekends. But I just thought there was more to this kind of cycle I was doing every week, working during the week and partying on the weekends. And I was like, I just thought there was more.
Well, I wanted to know like when you started doing like meditation and yoga, and where I was going with that question was like, was that when you started to identify, like, because in your mind, you clearly knew that gratitude and being grateful was very, very important. But once you started to study the psychology and study yoga and meditation and practicing those exercises, was there anything that happened during your discovery of that when you realized that other people are also practicing gratitude and you're starting to identify common points or
Yeah. Well, so this idea of gratitude is a very old idea. It's been around for millennia and maybe longer. I don't know, but it's in a lot of ancient texts. Just be thankful for what you got as a way to a more fulfilling life, as a path to a more fulfilling life. And with yoga and meditation and food and what it all came down to for me was this idea that our thoughts create our reality. And all these practices, all these mindfulness practices are just things that help us have better thoughts. And if you have better thoughts, you're going to have a better world. You're going to have a better life. So that's kind of how I operate really, is just doing things that allow me to have more control over my mind as opposed to letting my environment control how I feel and how I think. And I literally think I literally believe thoughts become real if you learn how to nurture them and love them. And that's kind of the process I'm exploring at this point in my life, is how deep that connection is between what we think and what we experience in the physical world. And gratitude is something that I think bridges the gap between your soul and what is present for you right now.
So what do you mean? You think that gratitude is what bridges the gap between your thoughts? And can you just re-explain that? Yeah.
I think there's a lot of ways of thinking in ancient texts. There's the idea of being, if you're truly in the present moment, there's only happiness can exist there. And I think practicing gratitude, the idea of looking around you and thinking of what's good, is something that connects you to the present moment, which in effect is the same thing as connecting you to happiness. It all just comes down to our mind. I think everything we experience originated as a thought in some way, whether it's this chair, like I'm sitting on this chair and there was one day this guy was like, oh, I want to make a chair that looks like this. And like it was a thought in someone's mind and now it's like a real physical thing. In Grateful People's, the journal, at one point it was just a thought in my mind to make a journal with these colors and these dimensions. And now it's a real physical thing. Like everything comes back to a thought. And it's like, how do we like control our thought? Not control, but just experience our thoughts in a positive way. That's what this whole thing is about for me. And that's what I'm trying to learn and explore.
You said something that I thought was very interesting. You said being present. When you're present, only happiness can exist. Did I get that right?
Yeah. It's really hard to do, but I believe that.
I think if you think about it that way, it defines actually what unhappiness is. And unhappiness is like when you're worrying or thinking about things that aren't even happening, like right.
Yeah,
now. Right. Like that's deep. Like it causes me to like internally, I'm just like, I've already gone into this thought process of like what that really means of like, okay, cool. Like that made me get it. And when you're present, only happiness can exist because you like, I don't know.
It's there. Like abundance and happiness is all around us. I think it's just woven into the fabric of life, and our minds just kind of get fogged up with some things that aren't even necessarily real. Like we just think of things that either haven't happened yet, or just we're making up situations in our mind that's a possibility but hasn't happened. And we just look around us all the time. And also breathing. Like if you like really connect with your breath and realize like, wow, my brain and my heart are carrying out, I don't know, tens of thousands, I don't even know, crazy amounts of functions every moment. Yeah, we have trillions of cells carrying out functions every moment. So there's like trillions and trillions of things happening in your body every moment. And if you like really connect to that and just feel like power in our bodies and in our mind, it's like, wow, it's kind of like we're in like a magical world. There's one quote of a writer or something like, if you're awake, you'll always feel like you're in fantasy land, something like that. But it's just acknowledging how amazing nature is and really just getting your mind in the place to connect with it as often as possible.
Who do you think is most vulnerable, children or adults, like who are unaware of this?
I think adults, but I mean, I would have to think about that more, but off the bat, I would say adults, because children, I'm really attracted to children and the way they perceive the world. I think there's so much to learn from them. And a big part of my life is trying to revert part of me back to the way I was when I was a kid, in terms of just kids live in the present moment. They're not jaded. And yeah, I think adults are most vulnerable because our minds have already been diluted with a lot of other stuff, and kids are still pretty pure or purer. Yeah, I think adults are more vulnerable.
So being more vulnerable, have you found it to be more difficult to kind of shift to fix that, right? Like if we're always anxious, always stressed out because of our job, or you mentioned something about the importance of your environment and not letting your environment control you, right? How difficult do you think it would be to actually fix that problem? Like, is this a simple like, yeah.
It's a very easy problem to fix in theory, but might be difficult to carry out because of the state of a lot of our minds. There's problems. And I think we've kind of evolved into a group of people that kind of overlook simple solutions to problems. So like all of the kids in Lincoln Middle School, they experienced a huge drop in behavioral issues. And all that happened was they wrote down what they're grateful for every day. So I think it's really that simple, but getting adults to understand that and to actually follow through with these practices. And it's more than that. It's a lifestyle, happiness. Happiness is a lifestyle. But yeah, I think it's a very easy process, but encouraging the people to go through that process is pretty difficult.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Like,
I mean,
yeah.
Personally, as someone who's attempted mindfulness exercises, I'm definitely making way more progress than I did years ago. It was a hard shift for me because number one, I'm just not really attracted. Like initially I wasn't attracted to it. Like it's all woo woo, and that's not how my mind operates. But as I've learned and I've studied more, I see the importance of it, because there have been some really dark times in my life that I have noticed I've been self-sabotaging myself. And so it's just like naturally I've been exploring the thought of mindfulness. But I do agree that it's probably way more difficult for adults to change than kids, because the kids are not that know any better, but like they just haven't experienced, and their brain, their mind hasn't been conditioned to be morphed into what society is today. So.
Yeah, and that's why I love being around kids, and yeah, they're pretty special beings. There's a lot to learn from them.
Yeah. So what's the mission? Where are you going next? Like, what are you doing now? What are you up to?
So the mission is to Grateful Peoples. It's really a representation of me. So my, I guess, business model is the same as my lifestyle model. If my mind's good, my world's going to be good. So if my mind is strong, Grateful Peoples is going to be accomplishing what I truly believe it'll be, going down the path that I hope it goes down. And the idea, one big thing is just getting as many kids as possible with journals, and the school giving them time every day to just sit and write down some happy thoughts. So last year we had 1,200 kids, and this upcoming year, the community has been so amazing in helping grow this project, which has been the best part. But yeah, so this upcoming year we have at least 4,000 kids signed up around the country that gratitude is going to be part of their curriculum, and every day in school they're going to get time to practice. And the goal is to just keep growing that every year. And I've also been trying to manifest kind of like a pilot program in a prison, where something I learned that kind of struck me was that essentially every person that's in jail now is released. Like 95% of people don't serve life sentences or serve a very short sentence. And to me, that was kind of interesting. Like, wow, there's pretty much everybody in jail who returns to society, and they're not really being given just tools to return with a good mindset. And there's already yoga and meditation happening in jail. So I've tried to connect with some organizations, and hopefully it's feeling good that it'll be soon. We'll kind of start I guess a pilot program where prison's going to get some journals and they're going to introduce a gratitude practice for the inmates. So I'm really excited and curious to see how someone in that position is going to relate to that. I know it could be a very touchy exchange to give someone who's locked up, hey, write down what you're grateful for, But I really believe it'll have a good impact in the long run, especially seeing the results from the yoga and meditation already happening in jails. So there's that. And then there's also the homeless community, which I've been thinking about how to reach with the power of gratitude, which is a tough one because you can just go around and give someone on the street a journal, but there's not a real connection. I'm going to figure out how to really connect with homeless population. And there's a few organizations out there that are doing really cool things, and we've been connected and just trying to figure out a way to kind of implement some gratitude journals into their programs that they use to help the homeless. So
this is extremely fascinating in my opinion, because Teddy, you are a happiness expert is what I'll call you.
Definitely. I'm learning. I'm just beginning to learn all this stuff. And which is, to me, it's awesome because I already feel happy, but I just think there's so much more to learn and grow. And so I'm excited for that. But thank you. Yeah.
So I would definitely classify you as a happiness expert. And in my mind now, prisoners and the homeless, let's say, obviously you're moving forward with the prisoners, but in your mind, if you were to approach them, what are they going to be happy for? What would you tell them to be grateful for?
That's a good question. I've never actually imagined myself interacting with the prisoners directly, but to me, a lot of my gratitude comes down to my physical health. And I think that's due to seeing my mom's physical health decline. The fact that I can do that. Not everyone can do that. And I would try to encourage them to really look at the core of what it means to be alive and breathing, and for your body to be doing what it does on a daily basis. It's literally a miracle. The human brain is just, I want to learn more about it, but it's completely mind-boggling the functions it carries out every moment. And if you just think about those things, it's just kind of wow, thank you, brain. Thank you, heart. Thank you, liver, for doing all these things. And I'm grateful I can exercise. I'm grateful I can talk and see and hear and color. Imagine there was no color. So it's really, for someone in that position, I guess I would try to introduce the basic principles of life.
Okay, so how about the homeless? You walk up to a group of the homeless and you explain to them what your exercise is, what your journal is. What do you think that because in my mind, if I were homeless, it's hard for me to even think that way, but the way that my mind always operates is what is the objection going to be? So you walk up to somebody, you say, hey, listen, I want you to practice this. What would you tell them? What would you tell them to be grateful for?
That's a really good question because so I thought about what would happen if I just went around and gave journals to someone on the street, but I guess I haven't because I don't know what I would say. That's a really tough one. And these organizations that I mentioned before, that they've already established step-by-step programs that homeless people are open to be a part of, but they kind of have to graduate to the next level. So it's really cool what they're doing. So in a system like that, it'll definitely be easier to incorporate a gratitude journal. But just going up to someone on the street that we woke up today, I guess this is the same things that I would share with someone locked up. Really just the core. If you just wake up every day and you're wow, my feet are carrying me to the sink and there's just water. I just turn this thing and fresh water comes out of nowhere, and then I close it and it's gone, and I open it again and there's water there again. And if you just really, your mind really, if you start exploring gratitude, you just start seeing all these crazy things around you, and you really feel like you're living in a magic world. So I guess the same things I would say to the prisoners.
Teddy, I love it, man. I've been mind blown with this conversation today. I mean, it's something so simple. It's something so exciting. I realize the power and the impact. I mean, you are the happiness expert, and I just totally support your mission. So where can my audience connect with you? Where can they reach out to you?
On gratefulpeoples.com. My information's up there. My email's up there. I love, so the best part for me has been meeting people and learning from them. So I love when people reach out. So anyone listening, please reach out and share ideas. And it's all on gratefulpeoples.com.
Awesome. Teddy, It's been a blast today. I'm super glad that you came on the show. If you're listening right now, go connect with Teddy. Let him know you heard him on Experts Unleashed and practice your mindfulness, practice being happy and being grateful, because the end result is being happy, but practice being grateful so you can be happy. And the quote today that I want to highlight is, when you're truly present, only happiness can exist. I think that's a really, really powerful statement. So if you haven't trademarked that yet, Teddy, you should definitely trademark it.
Yeah, I'll look into that.
Yeah. Teddy, I appreciate it, man. And for everyone else listening, go connect with him, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.
Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we look forward to giving you the next one. Now, if you want additional trainings and content outside of the podcast, I release exclusive video trainings on my Experts Unleashed YouTube channel. And if you'd like to come hang out with thousands of other fellow experts, join our Facebook group community, where we do hangouts and webinars to help support you in your journey. Finally, if you'd like my personal help to develop, launch, or scale your business, contact me directly for private consulting opportunities to see if any spots are available. And you can find all of the information above at expertsunleashed.com.